If I ride, I don't use anything. I don't wear a heart rate monitor. I don't have a power meter on my bike. I have a bike computer, so I will see the distance. I don't care much about distance. The one thing that I do care about is vertical gain. So if I've only got 90 minutes, 2 hours to go out and ride, I will try to climb as much as I can. So if I can go out in an hour and a half and climb 3,000 feet, which in Austin is hard to do, you have to hit a lot of little hills to do that, then I'm satisfied. I wouldn't have much interest in riding 2 hours and not climbing, because climbing is obviously harder, equals suffering. I'm one of these people that prefers to suffer a little. AI is going to drastically affect health and health outcomes. I love that part of it. I mean, there's also a part of me that's like, wait a minute, I also like people. Like, what's going to happen to people? One thing that I think is our belief is that what people, as in going back to this piece of society, is we're going to get time back. So we are going to save time. We're going to save time in our day. What do we do with that time? Is that time with our family? Is that time to be spent on our health? Is that time to be used for experiential things? We are going to gain time, right? Which is great. And our preference is that people devote some of that time to their health and prolonging life and enhancing life and going forward. The podcast/content is important because without those two shows, and the cycling show is the one that is now the big show that's kind of the marquee show. There was another show before that that had nothing to do with cycling. I refused to talk about cycling. I wanted to interview interesting people that I was interested in, but I didn't want to talk about cycling for all the various reasons. And then on a whim, I went and created a cycling show, and that show quickly blew up and rose to the top of the rankings, and that show is now the marquee show.
And what's the name?
That show, the cycling show, is called The Move, and the original show was called The Forward, which to me was really in recognition of a process that I was going through in my life where, everybody knows my story, so there was a point in time where I said, listen, I am choosing to move forward with my life, and I'm going to reimagine and reinvent, and I'm going to figure out a way to move forward and support my family and do all the things that we do. People ask me all the time, what's different about venture than what you had imagined 5 or 6 years ago? It's much harder. This is a full-time, my family can speak to this. This is better than anybody in the room. This is a full-time gig. This is not it could have been set up, I suppose, in a way where I hire amazing people like Mel and Jordan and say, let me know when I need to be there. This is a full-time job. It's been tougher than I thought, but at the same time, I think when it's all said and done, will be a lot more rewarding. I've always invested, whether it's, just to back up, I've been a professional athlete for basically 40 years. So I always had income as a young guy and was able to invest, and so I was interested there. Along the way, I was able to angel invest, which I was super passionate about, identifying amazing founders, spaces that I believed in, and made some great angel deals. And then the other part, on the more specific to the venture side, is I've just been around venture for a long time. I was very involved with the founders of Austin Ventures. They were very involved in Livestrong, which was an organization most people know, an organization I started 25 years ago. And so I was watching them play the game, and then I was also fortunate enough to be an LP alongside some great GPs, primarily Lowercase Capital with Chris Sacca, Ignition Ventures with Brad Silverberg. And so I just loved watching them play the game. And so I just basically married the two, and it all came to fruition, and you saw a little bit of it in this reel through the shows, through creating content, building back this relatively massive audience that really, for me, generated deal flow and created this flywheel. My view of a founder or of a potential deal is different than Mel's view, my partner, or Jordan, my other partner's view of the deal. They would look at it from a different perspective. Ultimately, we think as a team, but we all have our own views. You're right. Although we in cycling, there's not a locker room per se, but there's a team bus. That bus looks like a bus, but it feels like a locker room. So anytime you're in that locker room with a team, and it's also a professional sports team, so every year there are new, just like every other pro team, there are new players and old players go away. And so you're constantly trying to figure out the new players, how they fit in. And the best leaders and the best teams figure out very quickly if they made the right decision on personnel. And so I do tend to lean on that. People expect me to sort of poo-poo e-bikes. It's people on bikes. I love e-bikes, right? It could be whether you're commuting or whether you're a couple that like to ride but can't ride together anymore for whatever factor that is, and you're able to ride together. Like, I'm a big fan. The unique thing about this team is that we're all athletes. There's only 3 of us, so the 3 of us are athletes, which means we're competitive, which means we grew up looking at results, looking at scoreboards, stopwatches. No matter how your sport was determined, that was competition. And so we pride ourselves on being competitive in the space. We have Fund One proved that we're in the game and we're competitive. We know what we're doing. We can access great deal flow. We can help founders. We can contribute. And so as long as we continue to be competitive, we'll be doing this for a long time. We live in Austin, Texas, and most would know that Austin has exploded, right? And so with an explosion like that comes growth and development and traffic and construction. I moved to Austin in 1989 when I could ride right down Lamar Boulevard and stop in the middle if I wanted. You can't do things like that anymore. So my riding is more limited in Austin. We spend the summers in Colorado. I will ride my bike every day. The answer to your question is yes. It sounds corny and slightly hokey. I love riding my bike. I love riding my bike alone. And I get a lot, when I go ride alone, I feel like I get a lot done, obviously for my own health and wellness. But when I'm out there, especially alone, I'm able to think and just that it's therapy / church for me. I was fortunate enough to win twice on Alpe d'Huez. Alpe d'Huez, for those who don't know cycling, that's like the Lambeau Field of cycling. That is the most iconic. Well, there's 2 iconic climbs in France. One is the Mont Ventoux, one is Alpe d'Huez. I never won on Ventoux, so that would be one of my biggest regrets. I had the opportunity to win twice and didn't. And I was able to win twice on Alpe d'Huez, one which made famous because it was this duel with my main rival for most of my career, the big German Jan Ulrich. And I was able to beat him, and we had whatever was defined as the look early in this stage. And then the second time was I won in 2004 on Alpe d'Huez, which was a time trial. So I'm all alone on a mountain with 1 million spectators in the year of 2004 when this was we had just invaded Iraq. The geopolitical stuff was off the charts. I was warned to actually not ride the race alone on a mountain with 1 million spectators. It was State Department actually intervened and said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I said, "Hell yeah, I'm going to do that." I wasn't going to stop. So those 2 are very, very special. But yeah, I mean, there's so many special ones. I won Core States, and for the Philly crowd, I won that in 1993, won the national championship there as a young kid. And then a couple months after that, won the world championships in the Stars and Stripes. So there's a lot of special memories. Hard to beat Alpe d'Huez, though. There is a mystique about that mountain. We define this as whole person health, which I think sometimes can be confusing because it gets a little bit close to sounding like holistic health, which it's not. But when you think about whole person health, this is really thinking about the 2 layers of care: upstream care, downstream care, preventative care versus sick care. I mean, healthcare and health in this country drives a significant portion of GDP. We are at a really interesting time when it comes to health. Our view is that people have fundamentally shifted their view on their own personal health. We sort of pin that to COVID, and coming out of COVID, our view is that folks had this moment. I mean, I speak for myself too. I mean, there was a moment where like, oh my God, this is it. They got us. This is how it ends. And then, fairly quickly we came out and said, oh, we're all going to survive. And you've seen this fundamental shift in people's habits, lifestyle. You've seen it also not just in those things, but you've seen it in the rise of influencers, creators, the likes of Andrew Huberman, Stacey Sims, Peter Attia. These folks have massive followings because their audience is this society that has fundamentally shifted. AI is going to drastically affect health and health outcomes. I love that part of it. I mean, there's also a part of me that's like, wait a minute, I also like people. Like, what's going to happen to people? One thing that I think is our belief is that what people, as in going back to this piece of society, is we're going to get time back. So we are going to save time. We're going to save time in our day. What do we do with that time? Is that time with our family? Is that time to be spent on our health? Is that time to be used for experiential things? We are going to gain time, right? Which is great. And our preference is that people devote some of that time to their health and prolonging life and enhancing life going forward. There are times in this business, and I certainly, based on my experience, where you have to, it's kill or be killed. But there's so many other times where you look around the sandbox and you're like, all right, we're all in this together. Like, we have to collaborate on this, and we are going to be partners on this. It's not dissimilar to cycling. Like, if you think about, or if I think about the Tour de France, you have 200 guys riding down the road. There's 21 teams. You have, in our day and age, we had 9 riders on a team. They now have 8 riders on the team. So we were 9 guys versus 190 other guys, right? So just on its face, that's a challenge. You would always, on a daily basis, have to find new partners, new allies that on day 3 would be some other team, and on day 13 might be a completely different set of teams. Sounds a little political, which it was, but you figure out ways to have this mix of competitiveness and collaboration, all the while knowing that at the end of the day, you're going to have to collaborate.